Hey, this is Mike. Thank you so much for choosing this video. Today we're checking out a 2022 Hyundai Kona in the N trim level. Now, if you're not familiar with the N trim level in Hyundai models, N is not just a sporty appearance package, it actually is a high performance version of that particular model. This vehicle is sitting on 235/40 Pirelli tires wrapped around 19-inch alloy wheels with a gloss gray finish. It also has a high-performance braking system with ventilated rotors on all four wheels. The name of this color is Race Red, which I think is an appropriate name and also appropriate color for this vehicle. It looks really nice, especially with all the black contrast trimmings. So here in the front, you have a combination of gloss black and flat black. So you can see this area right in here is a gloss black, and that's some wheel well ventilation. And then down in here is a matte black, same thing with the grille. It's kind of like has a little bit of a metallic look to it when the sun shines on it, which is pretty interesting. Blacked out badging here. Then you have the N logo over there. These little things are just accents. They don't actually allow air to flow through. Just add a little bit of design to the vehicle, I guess. All the lights here in the front are LEDs, turn signals, headlights, all that. And the headlights are in a multi-reflector LED system. Now, I have a night video on this vehicle, so you can check out what it looks like at night and also what it looks like going down the road, how well the headlights work at night. Looking at the profile of the vehicle, there's a little bit of an accent there at the bottom. It's like a dark gray or black right in there. And the side mirrors are a high gloss side mirror black, and then the pillar here is a matte black. So if that were to put that as a gloss black, it would help solidify the window, especially if you're to tint the front window. You already have the privacy glass here in the back. And speaking of that, this is what's considered a compact SUV. So they're able to do the window tint back there. So at first glance, I looked at it, it looked like a hatchback car, but I guess it has a little bit of more ground clearance, and it's supposed to be a crossover. So, but it does have a little bit of a gloss black piece right in here, and it kind of connects that rear spoiler as well. And these Fender Wells right in here are all painted, so they are a separate piece on top of the body, and then it's painted, which looks pretty cool. This is what the key looks like, and it's a full proximity key, designed to where you could just keep it in your pocket, use the vehicle 100%. It does have a little N logo there on the back side. Remote start, lock, unlock, and a panic button here that you can use. But generally, you could just keep this in your pocket in a bag as long as it's with you when you approach the vehicle. It has to be on the outside, and it will lock when you place your finger over the sensor indicated by this little dimple. You can put your hand over it, whatever. It senses your hand, and it will lock the vehicle. To unlock it, you simply put your hand behind the handle, and there's a sensor here, and it'll unlock the vehicle. There's also a physical key location here on the driver's side only. Here's the inside of the passenger side door. It's mostly a hard touch plastic. So right in here, hard touch, down here, hard touch. This is soft for your arm, and then this is like a vinyl type material around your arm. Extends down in there and also over here a little bit. Now this is enclosed, this handle, so you can utilize that as a pocket, and then you have larger pockets there at the bottom, and a smaller one right there, which is really handy for keys and stuff. It has the Harman Kardon sound system, which sounds pretty good. Sill plate with a little N, and I say a tiny sill plate with the N logo in it. The seat is manually adjusted here on the passenger side, and it has a simulated synthetic leather here. There's a microfiber type cloth where it meets up with the hard plastic, and in the center part, it has like a Alcantara type simulated suede material, which is pretty cool. Feels nice as well. Has a little bit of a contrast stitching there as well. Now there's perforations in the back of the seat, but not the bottom. So down here there's no perforations, but it does have a perforated portion here that extends up, and then there's the N logo embroidered in the back of the seat. There's the floorboard. Pretty good amount of legroom here in the front especially. Now this is all hard touch surface here, all the way up to there. This is kind of like a slightly plasticky type material. So it's not like super hard like the rest of it, but it is a non-reflective material. The glove compartment is smooth on the inside and pretty good size. You see the opening here in the front, easy to get in and out of. I hadn't bumped my head or had any problem really getting in the front seat. Now there is quite a bit of bolstering there on the seats themselves, so you will have to kind of get around that, but it's not a big deal. It's not like some seats are super bolstered and it's hard to get in and out. But the back door, the swing is pretty good, and we have enough headroom and legroom and everything to get in and out. This portion is a little bit smaller, so it's a little bit impedes you a little bit getting in and out, but it's not really a big deal. The inside of the back door looks very similar to the front. Same materials, hard touch, vinyl type, soft touch, and then the hard touch down there, enclosed handle and pocket at the bottom. Tiny little threshold with no sill plate. There is a net pocket on the back of the passenger side seat here, and a hard touch surface there, so kids can kick the back seat and stuff and not mess it up so much. It is a bench seat back here with car seat attachments, and it does fold down in a 60-40 split, so you can add to your cargo space. There's an armrest with cup holders. Move that out of the way. Pretty good amount of leg rooms on the ends. The center part has a huge hump that gets in the way, and that's for the exhaust apparently, because there is no, it's not all-wheel drive or anything. USB charge port and a little tiny pocket there, but no climate control vents. Now you notice that seat's back further than this one, so you can see the difference there. That one's pretty much all the way back almost, and you can see how diminished the legroom is. And then on this side, the seat's a little bit more in a forward position, and you can see you have a little bit better legroom. So depending on your needs, you will need to make sure that your passengers can fit in the back seat before you buy the vehicle. So bring your normal entourage when you go to the dealership to test drive it, and make sure everybody can fit in. Taking a look at the back of the vehicle, it does have roof rails, which is interesting right here. You can attach the cross braces if you want to put like a surfboard or whatever on top. So this is the antenna, little shark fin antenna that's body colored, and then you have the gloss black pillar and a pretty interesting triangular shaped third brake light, which is pretty neat. Confirming the Illuminati though, I think. Has a rear wiper, and the tail lights are a combination of LED and standard bulbs. The backup camera is slightly offset, just enough to annoy me, but it does work okay. It's right there. Should be in the middle, I think. And check out those dual exhausts. Nice big exhaust tips and looking pretty cool. And you can change the exhaust note depending on what drive mode you're in, or you can customize your drive mode, which is pretty neat. So opening up the hatch here, there is no button here. Remember the key, so it's not like you can pop it loose. But you do have to have either the vehicle unlocked or have the key with you in order to open up the trunk area, the hatch. So you can just push a little button under here. You can see the buttons kind of a little bit offset. So the camera's one side and the button's on the other. So that's the way they did it. If you have the back seats occupied with passengers, this will be your cargo space right here. It does have this shade that you can take out if you want to, but it's handy to keep things out of sight, and also the sun from shining in here. There's a subwoofer here on the back, on the right side. There's tie downs in the bottom. I'll tell you something about the tie downs in a second. A little bag holder there on the left side. Now the tie downs tie down to a floor that is not secure at all in the vehicle. So you're tying something down to keep it from tumbling, like, just, like falling over, that kind of thing, because this is still loose in the vehicle. So it's not really the most secure as far as, like, say, an accident or something like that, but you do have the ability to tie something down. Now this lifts up and you have a little bit more space here, in this styrofoam piece. There's the front tag holder. And then this lifts up, and then you have this empty spot where a spare tire would potentially be. But the issue with this vehicle is that it has the high performance braking system. So if you just get a regular Kona donut spare tire and put it here, it's not going to do you any good because it can't fit over the rotors. So you will need to have like a full-size spare and potentially put it in here in a way that's not impeding your, getting in the way of your rest of your cargo space. So just keep that in mind. If you want to add to your cargo space, you can fold down one seat or the other and add to your cargo space while still maintaining some passenger space, or you can fold it all down, take the shade out, and have a huge wide open cargo area back here. The fuel door is locking, and it's here on the driver's side, and it has a traditional cap, tether, and a place to hang the cap here on the inside of the door while you're pumping gas. Now, you can use regular fuel in it, even though it's a turbocharged and high performance engine and everything. So that's the way they tuned it. Starting it up, as long as you have the key inside the vehicle, you just press to hold the brake, push this button, and it starts right up. Here's the floorboard in front of the driver's seat. Now you notice the floor mat hooks in place, keeping it straight and keeping it from sliding it around. Accelerator, brake pedal, and the footrest are all raised rubber aluminum pedals, nice and sporty looking. So let's take a look under the hood. To open the hood, there is a latch a little bit to the right of center. So right in here is the center badge, and just a little bit to the right of that, just reach in and move it to the left and lift up on the hood. Now the hood is kind of heavy, so it does, you want to be prepared for that, and it does require a prop to hold it up. Here's the prop here, and it swings up to right where the arrow is aiming. There's insulation on the underside of the hood, and you do have some seals across the back, helping with airflow and noise. So here's the engine compartment, and the battery is easy to get to. It does have some insulation around the outside. Engine is a front-wheel drive vehicle, so it's no all-wheel drive option or anything like that. It's just strictly front-wheel drive. You can see all that heat shielding there in the back. There's heat shielding around the exhaust, also kind of like raised heat shielding on the firewall and insulation as well. And the reason why is that area gets super hot because it has a turbocharger back there. So this would be the exhaust area, and the intake is up here. So the air flows up into and gets pulled in by the turbocharger, and then allows for the air to go in the engine easier. Basically, that's the super easy way of explaining it. So the engine does have a plastic cover here, and it's got turbo written on it, which is pretty cool, and the N logo. And it's a 2.0 liter turbocharged engine, and it's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, but it's a dual clutch, wet dual clutch automatic transmission. So it shifts similar to a manual transmission and does a fantastic job. I mean, it nails the shifts. Now the wet version of the dual clutch is intended to have a little bit of potential slippage if you want to have a, kind of more simulate a regular automatic transmission. But this vehicle is just, it feels like it just nails those shifts. So it's fine, it's good, but the wet is a little bit different technology than a regular dual clutch. The blind spot detection system and rear cross traffic alert systems have the indicator here on the side mirror. The inside of the driver's side door is just like the other side, except for it has a few more buttons. The power windows are one touch up and down here in the front, and they're just regular single pane here in the front, and then the back you'd have to hold it. So hold it down and it goes all the way down and all the way up. Some vehicles, they stop at a certain level, but this one actually goes all the way up and down. Door lock controls, and then the side mirrors are adjusted here. You just pick a side and adjust it with that little pad. Now the driver's seat, unlike the passenger, is powered, and it has the ability to go up, down, tilt, and all that stuff, as well as a two-way lumbar adjustment. And it's one of those type of seats that's less comfort, more racing type style. So it does have some significant bolstering there. Not super cushy soft, but it's okay. but it depends on what your needs are. To the left of the steering column, there's two buttons. One is the dimmer switch for the interior gauges. The other one is like a downhill descent type thing. So if you want to, if you're in a slippery surface area and you're going up or downhill, you can engage that and it'll keep you going at a steady pace without slipping too much, is what the intention is. Surprised to see that kind of button on that kind of feature on a vehicle like this. I guess because it's supposed to be a SUV type thing, which it doesn't look like it or drive like it. Okay, so a tilt and a telescoping steering column that locks in place here. I'm sitting in the driver's seat. I have the driver's seat all the way down and all the way back, and I'm 6 feet tall to give you an idea of potential legroom here. And it's pretty decent, pretty good here in the front. Now this severely diminishes the back seat, like I showed you before. But this is actually a little bit too far back for me, so I do need to pull it up just a little bit to be at the right angle of the footrest there, and also to be able to safely reach the brake pedal and all that. So if you're a little bit over 6 feet tall, you should be able to drive it no problem. Now I wouldn't recommend sitting in the back seat behind the person driving, but you know, cost and benefits, I guess. So the steering wheel, really nice looking. This is a leather wrap steering wheel. Actually says the term leather, so make sure of that on the window sticker. Because unlike the seats are a simulated leather, so this is supposed to be real. It has the stitching there on the inside, and then you have the perforations on the outside. So the perforations here, and then the top and bottom are just regular leather. It's got the N at the bottom. It's really impressive looking, and it feels nice too. It has good thickness, gives a tiny bit in the hand, and then you have the bolstering there. And it has some cool buttons on it too, so it looks a little bit more special. You have these N buttons here, and then you have this NGS red candy-like fancy button. Looks like a NOS button or something, which it kind of like intended to be something similar to that. We'll get to all that in just a minute. It also has paddle shifters here as well. So there's one there, one there. It goes all the way from the top to the bottom. That's on the back of the steering wheel. Okay, so over here is the volume for the radio. So up and down, you can change the volume for the radio, change the tracks or radio station depending on what you're doing. That star and the mode is typically changing through the audio source, but this star and that mode you can customize to other things besides that. The star is a fully customizable button, so it takes you anywhere you want basically. The phone button, this answers or hangs up depending on what you're doing, and then this is the voice recognition. Now if you want to mute the radio, just press in on this volume button and it'll mute the radio. On the right side is the cruise control. So you turn it on, you can change to the speeds here, cancel and resume is right there. And then you have a lane keep assist as well right here, but there's no adaptive cruise control. This little button right here, I'm going to call that the pages button, and this up and down OK corresponds with the screen gauges. We'll get to that in a minute. So these cool buttons right here, the N buttons are, you can actually customize different drive modes. So like there's two like sport drive modes, and you can set it up and you'll be able to cycle through the regular drive modes plus the customizable ones by hitting the N buttons. And then this N Grin Shift is what the manual says. So you press that, and that's intended to downshift and give you as much boost pressure and as much energy the vehicle can muster for like 20 seconds or something. So this is not a launch mode. There's a launch mode that's separate from this in the screen, and I'll show you that in a minute. But this is just like you're creeping along, and then all of a sudden you press it, and then you just like want to take off real fast or whatever. You know, it's just fun. It's intended for fun. You know, it's not like you're gonna it's not like you're going to push the button, then it's gonna take off like a rocket. It's just gonna give you the maximum that the vehicle is capable of. All right, windshield wiper controls are there, and turn signals there. But the turn signal also has the headlight switch. So you have off, automatic parking lights and headlights. And you can check out the night video showing how they work and all that stuff, how well they work. And when you turn them, on the screen it shows you right there. So you don't necessarily have to look at the turn signal stock to see what you're doing, which is pretty cool. Okay, so this screen is basically the same size screen as this. But it's kind of sunk in there. It's a little bit further away, so it looks a little bit smaller. But it's easy to read, and I think it's well designed for the most part. So there's a speedometer here on the left. On the right is the tachometer, RPM gauge. Odometer's there, and it shows your distance, like your range, outside temperature, average fuel economy there at the bottom, what gear you're in, and I have right now a digital speedometer in the middle, but you can change that. So I'm going to press the pages button, and I'm going to cycle through so you can see these different pages here, indicated by those little icons there at the top. So it's kind of cycling through them right now. I'm going to stop on the first one. Now we're going to go up and down, so you can see that this first page allows you to get different information. So this will be like the status of your lane keep assist. Scrolling down, this one is like lets you know if you need to, if you're like driving or like you're sleepy or something. Somehow it monitors your behavior while you're driving and lets you know if you're like driving properly. I don't know how it works, but that's what the intention is. All right, next page. This will be like more of a performance there. It gives you the turbo boost and the torque. Scrolling down, this is a lap timer, which is pretty cool. And then a G-force meter. It actually has different racetracks saved on the screen. It's just pretty interesting. Oil temperature, engine temperature, which is very important, especially on a day like today where it's very hot. And it goes back to the original one there. Next page, this is where I found the digital speedometer. And scrolling down, this is the drive info, average fuel economy, timer, and trip. Sensory fueling gives you the information there. You can reset it. Same thing here. You can reset that. Then it goes back to the digital speedometer. Next page, so this will show just a digital compass. And the next one is the information about the tire pressure, which you do have to drive in order to get that information. Press it again and it goes back to the beginning. So I'm going to go back to the digital speedometer because that's kind of the one I want to keep an eye on. When you push the N button here on the steering wheel, it changes the way the speedometer and everything looks. The whole screen changes to more of a performance-oriented layout. So you have your oil temperature, engine temperature, the RPMs, the gear. Those are all, you know, like center focused. They're larger and, you know, easier to read, and the other stuff kind of goes away. You also have the G-force meter and the temperature gauge. Just additional stuff there that, you know, that you may want to be, that maybe you want to focus on more when you're racing, that kind of thing. Because digital speedometer has spoiled me, so I prefer to look at that than a regular speedometer needle. All right, so there is the start button, which we already saw. So here's the screen over here, and it has these physical buttons here at the bottom. It has a volume, tune through the stations. So let's start here at the home screen. This right here is typically your home screen. And this is a similar type setup that Genesis has and other Hyundai vehicles have, where it has like this type of screen. It has a split between the navigation map and then just kind of like a neat little thing going on over here, and it gives you basic information like the clock and date and stuff, and who's signed in, basically who's driving the vehicle. You can set up and customize different options there per the driver, you know, independent drivers. Okay, so because they can have different preferences. So you can see that this has these 3 screens right here, and this is kind of like the home screens, multiple screens. So this first one, let's get into this one, because this vehicle has a lot of overlap with other Hyundais. So you can see the map is very similar to other Hyundais. Navigation menu, the phone, the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It is a wired system for that. You got a voice memo, you got climate control here. It shows you where the air is blowing and stuff. So a lot of this stuff, and I've done a detailed one on the Genesis and other vehicles, so it's very similar to that. identical in some cases. There's different audio sources here. So you have FM, satellite radio, Bluetooth, USB, sounds of nature, which is kind of neat. It sounds like waves or whatever, forest, birds chirping, that kind of stuff. AM radio and an Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are grayed out right now, but they do have that. You do have to plug in the device and it'll allow those to be available. Also, user's manual. This is basically just a QR code, which you can look it up online. So not as cool as having it on the screen, but this is what actually makes this vehicle different. So let's hit this N mode right here. So this kind of pops up, and this is the cool factor, right? So it's intended to be cool. So you have the throttle, oil temperature, engine temperature. So as I do the throttle, you can see that change. Also the brake pressure, you can see that. So we can, as I push the brake, you can see that change. And then the miles per hour, what gear you're in, lap timer. And I'm going to go to the next screen just to show you that you can customize. See right, custom 2, you can custom 1, custom 2, and set up the different drive modes that you want using the using the N buttons here on the steering wheel. All right, so let's go back to the original N mode screen, because you can hit right here, it says circuit, so you can hit that, and here's these different Atlanta, Miami, Lime Rock, Road America, Watkins Glen. So it has these different race circuits apparently that it can show, I guess apparently show you where you're at in that particular circuit, and set up your information about it, that kind of thing. You can set up the vehicle for that if you're racing there. So a lap timer, you can hit that and expand that. You can expand this and get information about the throttle with like a little graph right here, which is pretty neat. Oil temperature, engine temperature, speed, which is pretty cool, brake press, power, torque, turbo, pressure. All that could be monitored here on a little graph, which is pretty cool. And then you have dual gauges here, so you can have 2 at the same time. You just check the one that you want. All right, so yeah, this is like pretty cool. It has a lot of information that's relevant to when you're like racing and stuff. So I'm not like a racer, so I don't know. I don't have experience with all that stuff and how it benefits you specifically, but I know you definitely want to keep an eye on your temperatures, and what gear you're in, that kind of stuff. So it makes sense to me. But yeah, this is like a regular Kona, except for it's like pimped out apparently as far as performance, and and the style looks good too. So we're gonna take it for a drive soon, but yeah, it has physical buttons here that kind of quickly go to certain features as well. Climate control is kind of basic. It's just a single temperature and fan speed, where you want the air to blow, front and rear defrosters, recirculate the air, all that kind of stuff. Down here is a wireless cell phone charger, 12-volt power supply, USB charge port, another USB here, and then there's the status of the wireless charge port there. So the shifter has the traction control off button here, and then the drive modes here. So you can actually turn this knob, and when you turn it, so there it'll change the view here. So it also changed when I turn this knob, the exhaust notes changes, the screen changes. You have a snow, you have an eco, normal, and sport. And then the N buttons, you can change different sports. So if you want to turn off traction control and you want to burn tires, or if you want to have a real stiff suspension, it does have a suspension that you can customize, and the shifting and all that stuff, you can customize it to your sport mode that you want. And also the exhaust. If you don't want to have a real loud exhaust, you don't have to have it. You can change that in the settings there. Okay, so heated seat, it's a 3-stage, high, medium, and low for the driver, and passenger is over here. The shifter is pretty cool, it has a little N at the top, perforated leather as well. Put it in reverse. We can check out the backup camera here, which is pretty basic, but it does give you the ability to see behind the vehicle. Neutral, drive. Now you can manually change through the gears here instead of the pedal shifters by putting it over here and then bumping it like a ratchet shifter. So it's downshift, upshift, like that. So there's a handbrake, which is nice. So that way you can actually, you know, control the amount of pressure going to the rear brakes, which is pretty cool. Because parking sense, like an electronic parking brake, is just a parking brake. Like, you don't have any control over how much pressure that you put on it, and you're using it as like an emergency type brake. So this is like parking brake, but also if you need to slowly pull up on the brakes to slow the vehicle down slowly, you can also do that as well. Or if you want to, you know, you want to use it in order to initiate braking traction of the front wheels, stuff like that, but I don't recommend that. Okay, so there's cup holders there, and it has little articulating arms, and a like a little just kind of plasticky on the inside. This is all hard plastic here. It does have one a little bit deeper than the other, which could be handy. The armrest is kind of plasticky, rubbery, soft. It lifts up, and you have a little storage compartment here. Put some stuff. Put my business cards in there so you can see, because it's kind of dark in there. Rear view mirror is manually adjusted for day and night mode. Blue link is here. You get roadside assistance with the like SOS buttons and stuff like that are there as well. This is for like sunglasses or you know, glasses in general, but it has a really nice soft felt lining, which is really, that's one of the best right there. Quick access lights here and here. Turn on all the interior lights there, have them all off, or have them on. So like say this right here, if you want to have them on when the doors open, you have it in a center position, but if you don't want to turn that feature off, you put it over here, so that'll just completely turn them off. The visors are wrapped in kind of like a vinyl type material. They have a little clip there, a mirror, the light, you turn it on there and turn it off there, but if you accidentally leave it on when you flip this up, it hits the switch and turns it off. Now it does slide out as well. Same thing there on the passenger side. And there's no sunroof option. The headliner is like a felt material as well, which is interesting. So looking at the visibility in the back, it has some windows, little tiny windows back there to help out with blind spots, but it does have a pretty large pillar and a small back glass. But of course it has the blind spot detection system, the rear cross traffic alert, and the camera, of course, backup camera helps you out. So you have performance options here in which you can change the launch mode, the RPMs, to where it won't launch until after it reaches a certain amount of RPMs. You can also turn on or off a shift light, and you can have a sound associated with the shift light as well. The N Power Shift enhances acceleration performance and direct drive feel for optimizing shift response. This is available in the Sport Plus transmission mode. N-Track Sense Shift automatically activates the appropriate shift program when dynamic driving is sensed. Automatic creep is off. Prevents the vehicle from creeping forward when you take your foot off the brake while in drive. If the off button is enabled, the vehicle may move, slide up and uphill or downhill. So it kind of like holds the vehicle. So those are some of the performance options here. And then launch control, you can activate it simply by pushing that button. And then it says it lasts 5 minutes. From what I understand, it doesn't change the actual amount of time it takes to get from like 0 to 60. It's just kind of like, it does change a little bit. It's a slight change, but it's just kind of more of a rapid acceleration from a standstill. So it's more fun than anything else. Unless you're like drag racing regularly, then it's just really made for just, you know, fooling around and having fun, which it is fun, don't get me wrong. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll put it in sport mode and kind of drive a little bit, because the transmission's fantastic. And it nails the shift points perfectly. Definitely some torque steer there. This is a front-wheel drive vehicle and it shifts nice and hard. It's propelling the vehicle nicely, so. So it does have a very, not very, but it's a pretty stiff suspension, especially in sport mode. Liking the shifting. Okay, so we're cruising on a road like this. Put it on normal, get a little bit less exhaust noise, just kind of cruising along. Even put it on eco. And it has a nice, pleasant feel. It's less, the suspension is less bouncy. Kind of hard to tell right now because of the road is actually pretty smooth. All right, now we got a bumpy road. Yeah. See, it's just a stiff suspension, even in eco mode or in normal. It's still a bumpy suspension. When you put it in sport mode, it just stiffens it up a little bit too much for just regular driving. So go ahead and get a, just kind of start quickly, and not in launch mode or anything like that. We're just gonna start quickly. Okay, so has a little bit of a lag there, but once it got kicked in, we have a pretty loud exhaust and we have a pretty good acceleration, nice shift points, and fun to drive. That's in sport mode. That's in just regular sport mode, no launch mode or anything like that. Now if we push NGS, we'll push that. Yeah. That gives us a little bit of an extra oomph, you know. Keeps us at a very high RPMs. We're counting down 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it turns off. So it gives us about 20 seconds of just like blasting out as much horsepower and torque and everything the vehicle can muster. When you're using the launch mode and these different features that really give it a lot of torque, hold on to the steering wheel, because it has the torque steer and it's going to want to, you know, dance around and not drive straight. Since it's a front-wheel drive vehicle, it's not going to give you that straight linear acceleration. But anyways, thank you for watching, and let me know what you think of this vehicle, whether it's as a hot hatch or a SUV, or if it's practical as an actual race car on a racetrack, or what you think about that, about the vehicle in general. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.